the cloth of conviction, above all the competition, where fact and fiction meet.
There's no color lines, caste or classes. There's no fool in the masses. Whatever faith you practice, whatever you believe.
Oh heaven, heaven, what the hell is heaven? Is there a home for the homeless? Is there hope for the hopeless? Throw away your misconceptions. There's no walls around heaven. There's no code you gotta know to get in. No Minutemen or Border Patrol. You've gotta lose your earthly possessions. Leave behind your weapons. You can't buy your salvation, and there is no pot of gold. Oh heaven, heaven, what the hell is heaven? Is there a home for the homeless? Is there hope for the hopeless? Heaven ain't got no prisons, no government, no business, no banks or politicians, no armies and no police. Castles and cathedrals crumble, pyramids and pipelines tumble. But failure keeps you humble and leads us closer to peace. Oh, heaven, heaven, what the hell is heaven? Is there a home for the homeless? Is there hope for the hopeless? Heaven, is there a home for the homeless? Is there hope for the hopeless? Heaven, heaven.
In this small flame dwell, the beacon light of lanterns guiding travelers home, the warmth of hearth fires tended through the generations, the transforming energy of furnaces, and the power and life of our sun. May these blessings, warmth and light and life-giving energy, be kindled in each of us.
We are all religious haven, welcoming wonder and spiritually free. Grace unstained by a loving tradition, moved and inspired by the future we see. Only seeking and working for justice, gently transforming lives through big, great, and small. Young and old, sharing meaning and mission, we joyfully offer our vision to all.
A Place to Stay, A Shelter Story by Aaron Gunty, illustrated by Esteli Meza. I slammed the car door and tucked Bunny Beth under my arm. I don't want to stay here, I told Mama, looking up at the tall building. I know, Mama said softly, but we're lucky to have a place to stay. I squeezed Bunny Beth to my chest. I didn't feel lucky. This isn't a house, I whispered. You know what? Mama said. I think you're right. Looks more like a palace to me. A palace? I asked. Mama grinned. Let's go inside and see if the Queen is here. Inside, we met a woman with short hair sitting in a tall swivel chair. Her name was Kelly. Mama filled out some paperwork. Then Kelly said she would show us to our room on the 3rd floor. We passed an area with some sofas and a television on one side. Next, we walked past a room full of toys and books. Oh, wow, Mama exclaimed. I believe we found the treasure cave. Is all of this for me? I asked. You and all the other kids. Maybe we'll make some new friends, said Kelly. Mama said we would visit later. Kelly took us to the room where she said we would sleep. It was very small. Dinner is on the 1st floor, she said before leaving us to unpack. We put our bags on one of the beds. Then Mama pressed on the mattress. A little squeaky, but it feels pretty soft. I frowned. That's not my bed. My bed had a fluffy pink blanket and 3 pillows just for me. This bed had a boring gray blanket and only 1 pillow. Mama replied. You're right. That's not your bed. In fact, that's not a bed at all. She kicked off her shoes and climbed onto the mattress. What are you doing? I asked. Mama took a big bounce. She took another bounce and then another. Her fingertips touched the ceiling. This isn't a bed. This is a rocket ship, sending me straight to the stars. Do you want to touch them too? Bouncing looked like fun. It took me a few tries, but I finally touched the ceiling. Mama looked at the clock. Oh, I think it's time to go downstairs for dinner. My tummy rumbled. Yum! I smell spaghetti, Mama said. The dining room was large and full of people talking loudly. Some people stood behind a counter serving food. Others sat at tables eating. I covered my ears. This isn't a kitchen. You're right, Mama said. This isn't a kitchen. It's a banquet hall. A banquet hall? I asked. Yes, and look at how many people have come from near and far to dine with us. Let's get our food and say hello, shall we? Okay, I sighed. We sat next to a woman named Alice and her 2 children, Grace and Andrew. Alice let me feed Andrew a bottle. Grace and I talked about school and found out we were reading the same book. After dinner, Mama gathered my PJs, soap, and a towel so I could have a shower. I turned the water on, then ran my hands under the spray. Brrr, I said. You'll have to wait for the water to warm up before you get in, Mama replied. Wait? Oh, that will never work, I said. And why is that? Mama asked. Because we won't find warm water here, I smiled. Really? How will we find it? Mama asked. Deep sea diving, I said. Put your diving mask on. We swam to the right, glug. We swam to the left, glug, glug. Over here, I shouted. The water was just right. After my shower, I climbed into my rocket ship and snuggled with Bunny Beth. Mama, this is the most comfortable rocket ship I have ever slept in, I yawned. I think so too, Mama whispered, kissing me on the cheek. Good night, sweetheart. Good night, Mama, I whispered back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we were off to sleep. Shelters and homelessness. Why do people stay in shelters? The characters in this book are spending the night at a homeless shelter, a building that provides a place to stay for people who need it. People might have trouble finding a place to sleep at night for many different reasons. This could happen if a natural disaster like a hurricane or a flood destroys someone's home. It could also happen if someone can't pay for a place to live. Maybe because they lost their job or got a big, unexpected bill. Sometimes, living at home is not safe, so people have to find a new place to stay. People who need a place to live might stay with friends or family members for a while. They might also sleep in a hotel, in their car, or in a public space like a park or train station. Shelters are safe places where people can stay when they don't have somewhere else to go. How can shelters help? A shelter isn't just a place to sleep. Shelters can give people hot meals, warm showers, and a place to wash their clothes. Some of the people who work in shelters are called social workers. They can help those staying in shelters find health care, train for new jobs, or plan how to save money for a new home. Like the characters in this book, people staying in a shelter might have a tough time getting used to living in a new place and sharing it with others. Children staying in shelters might have to go to a new school for a while. Social workers can help make these changes easier. People in the community can volunteer at shelters, helping serve food or clean the building. They can also help by giving money or by donating things shelters might need, like clothes, food, art supplies, or games. Author's note. Working as a child abuse and neglect investigator, I was given the opportunity to provide support and resources through legal, judicial, and public organizations for children and families experiencing homelessness. I wrote A Place to Stay, a Shelter Story, to open dialogue between adults and children about childhood homelessness, and to hopefully create a call to activism to support those in need. Aaron Gunty. I wonder, what actions are you willing to take to help end homelessness.
You better listen, my sisters, 'cause if you do, you can hear there are voices still calling across the years. They're all crying across the ocean, and they're crying across the land, and they will till we all come to understand. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us is chained. None of us are free. And there are people in darkness, and they just can't see the light. If you don't say it's wrong, then you say it's right. We gotta be for each other. Let our brothers know we care. Gotta get the message, send it out loud and clear. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us is chained. None of us are free. It's a simple truth we all need to see. None of us are free. One of us is chained. None of us are free. Now I swear to you, salvation isn't too hard to find. But none of us can find it on our own. We gotta join together with spirit, heart, and mind, so that every soul is suffering will never know. If you just look around you, you're gonna see what I say. 'Cause the world is getting smaller each passing day. Now it's time to start making changes, and it's time for us all to realize that the truth is shining bright right before our eyes. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us is changed. None of us are free. It's the very hell of humanity. None of us are free. One of us is changed. None of us are free.
Hello, my name is Meghan Snyder, and I'm the Shelter Operations Coordinator at Interfaith Hospitality Network of Greater Cincinnati. Our mission is to provide homeless families emergency shelter and hospitality through interfaith communities, and to work with families to find and retain stable housing. For the past 30 years, we've been a beacon of hope for families in our community with nowhere else to turn. We remain focused on our overarching goal of helping homeless families secure safe, permanent housing, with our key goals being to keep families together during the crisis of homelessness, help families reestablish long-term, safe, affordable housing, reduce the rate of returning to homelessness, and reducing the rate of the impact of the trauma of homelessness on children, pets, and their caregivers. All of our integrated programs are designed to move families out of homelessness and into stable housing, while providing wraparound support and services to help families achieve lasting stability. Annually, across our programs, we serve 350 families representing over 1,200 people. So many of our neighbors are one step away from homelessness. One lost job, one missed paycheck, one medical crisis. Then we had the economic impacts of COVID-19. There was a study done in 2017 by the Community Building Institute at Xavier. It estimates that Hamilton County has a 40,000 unit shortage of affordable housing for low-income households. Due to the lack of available, affordable housing, many families spend 50 to 80% of their income on housing and utilities, which leaves very little room for other basic or unexpected needs. The current economic impacts have increased the time needed for our families in emergency shelter to find sustainable housing. Our length of stay for 2021 was 67 days, compared to the average length of stay in 2018, which was 39 days. Even before the pandemic, local data showed that Cincinnati area shelters only met about 30% of homeless service demands. In the first 9 months of 2021, calls to the Central Access Point, or CAP line, which is how families enter shelter, increased over 30% from the same time period, 2020. In addition, calls increased 25% in 2020 compared to 2019. Now, the families that are not provided emergency shelter are forced to double up temporarily on friends' couches, squat in abandoned buildings, sleep in cars, or on the streets. Children and parents are unable to have their basic needs met because the system lacks the capacity to help them. Homelessness is what we call a lagging indicator, which means that after an economic crisis or national emergency, all the issues we're facing now, then homelessness increases. Most people who lose their own housing do not immediately become homeless. Instead, people stay with friends or family for as long as they possibly can. Frequently, only after they are asked to leave that last couch and are out of options, they call for help. We expect to see a continued rise in families facing homelessness. This time of pandemic has been a time of intense challenge. In March 2020, suddenly, with what felt like little warning, for the safety of our volunteers, families, and staff, it was necessary for us to have to completely rethink shelter. Overnight, we moved operations into an extended stay style hotel, where families experiencing homelessness could practice social distancing in the same way housed families were able to do. This change required so many logistics, from PPE to food to overnight staffing. It required us to figure out how to do what so many of our congregational volunteers have done for nearly 30 years. Plan dinners, creatively keep kids happy and entertained, be available in the middle of the night to a mom that is struggling, transform unfamiliar places into home. We've never had such an appreciation of what truly hard work all this is until the pandemic. The pandemic brought other motivating examples in the way all of our wonderful volunteers figured out how to adapt and keep helping, even when they could not do it in person. We're so thankful for all the amazing support, both financial and in time, that we have received from our supporters and volunteers. The outpouring of time, drives for needed supplies, all the cookies and gifts that have been made, the packaging and delivering of meals, the hand-sewn masks, the encouraging cards, all of this has made a difficult time not so bad. We have felt incredibly supported and loved. And the pandemic has not held us back from continuing to assist families in finding stable housing. In our housing assistance programs, our staff have continued to become experts at front stoop meeting, where they continue to provide support and resources at a safe distance. And due to the increased need, we've been delivering food, PPE, home testing kits, and other needed items to families in housing. Also, as part of our effort to help with the community to build more affordable housing options, we received our first tax credit award to develop Melrose Place, which will offer 26 new permanent supportive housing units in Walnut Hills. We continue to not forget about the furry members of the family either. Our pet program finished upgrades in 2020, which allowed us to serve even more families experiencing homelessness with pets. We also were able to help the community impacted by the pandemic with pet-related costs, such as vet bills and pet housing deposits. We accomplished all of this and more when things were at their most challenging, because we continue to be supported by all of you. So, how can you help? Monetary donations continue to be critical. To keep shelter families safe and healthy at an extended stay style hotel, the estimated cost per family for a week is $1,006. This amount includes room cost, laundry, transportation, food, and 24/7 staffing. Keeping in mind that this is an estimate and is offset by donated goods when we receive them, and also the individual needs of each family. You can also help by providing gift cards. At this time, we're not accepting donations of household items or clothing due to our limited storage space. So to serve families, we're asking for donations of gift cards to Kroger, Walmart, Target, or Amazon. The question has also become, what's next? As pandemic conditions improve, we will hopefully transition out of the hotels and back to more traditional shelter operations. We'll do this by renovating Grace Place, a facility in College Hill. The renovation will allow 7 families to be sheltered there as opposed to just 4. We're also going to be doing renovations at the day center, which will allow each family to have a private space of their own to operate out of, instead of congregate spaces, like a nap room and the computer room and the library. The construction portion is ready to start as soon as the city releases the funding, which we hope to happen soon. The completion of the construction portion of the project is expected by spring or early summer. What we do know is that we're grateful for the support of all of our volunteers in each of our congregations. So we know that together, we at IHN collaborate in a community-based effort to face the challenges of family homelessness head-on. Together, we make a difference in the lives of parents, children, and pets in need. Each volunteer offers their unique talents to come together to make the very best family support network. Thank you so much, and we appreciate all of your support. Next, you'll see a video clip from a recent news broadcast.
Landlord had issues with the city, so I had to leave the premises.
When Eugenia Perez and her sons had to leave their rental home, they had nowhere to go.
I called the CAP line every day, every single day for a couple weeks.
That's a hotline families can call for shelter when they're homeless.
Unfortunately, they couldn't help, so we were forced to sleep in our car.
It was kind of hard to sleep in the car. It would be cold. Sometimes the car wouldn't start.
Perez says she looked for safe places to park on streets near the library in East Price Hill. Her sons say it got scary.
We could barely fall asleep, and it was hard because I had to keep on staying awake because I felt like something was going to come out and get us.
The Capline finally connected Perez and her kids to shelter through Interfaith Hospitality Network of Greater Cincinnati. They're among the lucky ones.
We're seeing this increased demand at the worst possible time.
Kevin Finn is CEO of Strategies to End Homelessness. He says the Capline has gotten 33% more calls in the first 10 months of this year than in all of 2020. Most families that call get no help at all because there aren't enough resources.
The closer you get to literal homelessness, the less resources are available.
Perez says she feels safe now in the hotel where her family is staying. She still worries, though.
I feel so bad every day that I see the temperature drop. That's the first thing I think of, the people that are unfortunate and aren't able to have anywhere to sleep where it's nice and warm and comfortable.
Her sons have a message for them.
It might be tough now, but it'll get better. Things will get better. My message would be, don't stop believing that you will not get a home. You know that eventually you'll get one.
Lucy May, WCPO 9 News.
Each month, we designate our Sunday plate collection to benefit a special cause or local social justice organization. This month, our beneficiary is the Interfaith Hospitality Network of Greater Cincinnati, IHN. If you'd like to support the work of IHN, you may text GIVE to 513-717-7373. Visit our website at www.firstuu.com if you have access to our Breeze member system by clicking Give Now, or you may mail a check payable to First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati, 536 Linton Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45219. Be sure to write IHN in the memo line. If this is your first time visiting us, we invite you to let the virtual offering plate pass you by. Your presence is your gift to us. Our offering will be gratefully received. Thank you.
but the prayers are not heard. Saturday's child don't wanna go to
February 1st marked the beginning of Imbolc, a pagan holiday. In that spirit, I offer this prayer, entitled Prayer in Winter by Deborah Weiner. O Spirit of life and love, we pause for a moment on this snowy day to reflect on the changes 1 week can make in our lives. We celebrate the feast of Imbolc, the pagan holiday that heralds the coming of spring. Our hearts stir with the thought that lambs are being born, that the light is increasing, that if not here, then in other parts of our country, the earth has begun to stir from its winter sleep. We bow to the forces of nature that have stirred again and again and reminded us through storms and sudden changes in our weather that we are not in charge, that Earth is moved by jet streams, polar vortices, and Alberta clippers, and we must endure and be patient. And through it all, we are reminded again and again that we are not alone. May we continue to recognize that in this spiritual home, we are held. In this house of memory and hope, we will be welcomed and supported. In this temple of celebration and contemplation, we may bring all of who we are and both be honored and affirmed. For all this and all that will come in the days ahead, we say amen and blessed be. In honor and recognition of the joys and sorrows of our community and of the world, I invite you now into a moment of silent meditation, reflection, and prayer while we enjoy these beautiful flowers presented today by Mary Mark.
A Circle of Friends by Giora Carmi.
Spirit of life and love, your prophet Isaiah called us to worship you by freeing the oppressed, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and housing the homeless. Your follower St. Francis cried out, "Make me an instrument of thy peace." Jesus instructed us to love our neighbors and our enemies as ourselves. Remind us again, dear Spirit of life and love, that our hands are the hands that must do your work. We are the ones who must comfort the sick and lift up the poor. We are the ones who must challenge traditions to bring about justice. Strengthen our resolve, we pray, that we may live out our faith as doers of good works. Fill us with the Spirit, which will give us both courage and strength to move out into the world and there to make a difference. By our efforts, may the will and ways of love be fulfilled. Amen. Let us extinguish our chalice by reciting together the words that appear on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.